I wasn't supposed to be there that night. If I had arrived just 10 minutes later, I probably would have married the woman I trusted more than anyone else. Instead, I opened a door and saw my girl kissing the one man she had spent 3 years calling like a brother. I thought catching them together was the worst thing that could happen. I was wrong, because what I discovered over the next few days made the cheating look like the smallest lie she'd ever told me. But before we start today's story, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. My name is Ryan Walker, and I'm 29 years old. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The room was completely silent except for the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Emily's eyes widened in horror. Noah looked like he'd forgotten how to breathe, and I just stood there staring at them, trying to convince myself I wasn't seeing what I was seeing. But there was no other explanation. I had caught them. "Ryan?" Emily whispered. I shook my head. No. That was the only word I could get out. Noah immediately stepped forward. "Man, listen, don't." My voice echoed through the room. The look on his face told me he knew exactly why. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Please let me explain," I laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because my entire future had just collapsed in front of me.
"Explain what?" I asked.
Explain how the guy who's like a brother ended up kissing my girlfriend. Neither of them answered, and somehow that silence hurt more than any excuse could have. My eyes landed on a suitcase near the couch. That's Emily's suitcase, the same suitcase she'd packed the night before. The same suitcase she'd supposedly taken on a girl's trip. A cold feeling spread through my chest.
"There was never a girl's trip, was there?"
Emily lowered her head. That was all the answer I needed. Without another word, I turned around and walked out. Emily followed me into the hallway. "Ryan, wait!" I kept walking. "Please!" The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. The last thing I saw before the doors closed was Emily crying while Noah stood frozen behind her. Then they disappeared. The drive home felt unreal. Every memory from the last 3 years suddenly looked different. Every late-night phone call. Every canceled plan. Every moment she'd told me not to worry about Noah. By the time I reached my apartment, I felt physically sick. My phone started vibrating before I even made it through the front door. Emily, call after call, text after text. I ignored all of them. Around midnight, one message finally caught my attention. It read, "Ryan, this isn't only about Noah. There are things you don't know." I stared at those words, things you don't know. At the time, I assumed it was another excuse. I threw my phone onto the couch and tried to sleep. I barely managed 2 hours. The next morning, a loud knock woke me up. I opened the door. Nobody was there, just a large brown envelope lying on the floor. No name, no address, no note, nothing. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. I picked it up and carried it inside. When I opened it, several photographs slid onto my coffee table. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then my heart stopped. The photos showed Emily and Noah, but they weren't recent. Some looked years old. In one picture, they were standing outside what looked like a college dorm. In another, they were holding hands. In another, Noah was kissing her forehead. I felt my blood run cold. These weren't photos of two people who thought of each other as siblings. These were photos of a couple. A real couple. My hands were shaking by the time I reached the final photograph. Written on the back were 4 words. They never really ended. I must have read those words 20 times. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. "Hello?" For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then a woman's voice said something that made my entire body tense. "I sent the envelope. Who is this?" "My name is Sarah." I had never heard the name before. "You don't know me," she continued. "But you need to stop believing what Emily told you." "What are you talking about?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Emily and Noah weren't childhood friends." My heart started pounding. What? They were together for almost 7 years. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me.
7 years?
That was impossible. Emily had never mentioned a serious relationship with Noah. Not once, Sarah continued. They broke up shortly before she met you. I couldn't speak. My mind was racing. Nothing made sense anymore. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally asked. "Because Noah did the same thing to me." Silence filled the room. She added, "I was engaged to him." Those words hit me like a truck. For the next hour, Sarah told me things that completely changed the way I viewed my entire relationship. According to her, Emily and Noah had spent years trapped in a toxic cycle. They would break up, get back together, break up again, move on to people, then somehow find their way back to each other. Sarah believed they had never truly let each other go. I wanted to dismiss everything she said. I wanted to believe she was bitter, angry, wrong. But the photographs sitting on my coffee table told a different story. Before hanging up, Sarah said something else. Something I couldn't stop thinking about. "If you really want the truth, check the property records."
"What property records?" "You'll see."
Then she hung up. I spent the rest of the day trying to understand what she meant. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. That evening I searched online. 10 minutes later, I found something that made my stomach drop. A house. A small house on the edge of town. The ownership records listed two names, Noah Bennett and Emily Harper. I stared at the screen in disbelief. They owned a house together, not in the past, now, at that exact moment. I checked again. Then again, there was no mistake. The property had been purchased almost 2 years earlier. 2 years. That meant Emily had bought a house with another man while we were discussing our future together. While we were taking vacations, while we were talking about marriage. I felt numb.
Absolutely numb.
And then another terrifying question entered my mind. If they owned a house together, what else had they hidden? I was still staring at the screen when my phone suddenly rang. Emily. For the first time since I'd caught her, I answered. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Then she quietly said, "Ryan, where are you?" I looked at the property records on my laptop, then at the photographs spread across my table, then back at the screen. Finally, I asked the question that had been haunting me all day. Why do you own a house with Noah? The silence on the other end was immediate, and in that silence, I got my answer. Then Emily whispered something that made my blood run cold. "Ryan, I can explain that. But before I do, there's something even worse you need to know." And that was the moment I realized the truth was far bigger than cheating, far bigger than Noah, and far more dangerous than I had imagined. For a few seconds, neither of us said a word. I could hear Emily breathing on the other end of the call. My heart was pounding so hard it felt painful. Finally, I spoke. "What could possibly be worse than everything you've already done?" Emily's voice trembled. "Ryan, please let me explain everything before you decide what to think." I almost hung up, but at that point, I needed answers more than I needed pride. So I listened.
Start talking.
There was a long pause. Then she said something that immediately took me by surprise. "I never bought that house to live with Noah." I looked at the property records on my laptop. "Then why is your name on it?" "Because I helped him." That answer only made me angrier. "Helped him how?" Emily sighed. 2 years ago, Noah was drowning in debt. He couldn't qualify for a mortgage by himself. I co-signed because I thought I was helping a friend.
A friend?
The word came out sharper than I intended. Neither of us believed that explanation was enough. Finally, Emily said something honest.
No.
Not just a friend. I closed my eyes. At least she wasn't lying anymore. "When you met me," she continued, "I wasn't completely over him. That hurt. But somehow it wasn't surprising. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. Yeah, you should have. I kept thinking the feelings would disappear."
And did they?
Emily didn't answer immediately. That silence told me everything. Then she quietly said most of them did.
Most.
Not all. Most. I felt sick again. For years I had believed I was building a future with someone who had chosen me completely. Now I was learning that part of her heart had never truly left her past behind. But there was still something that didn't make sense. "What did you mean when you said there was something even worse?" The line went silent. Then Emily said something I never expected.
"Ryan, Noah has been lying to both of us."
I frowned.
What? Sarah wasn't wrong about everything. That got my attention.
Emily explained that after she and Noah broke up years ago, they remained emotionally connected in unhealthy ways. Whenever one of them struggled, the other would step in. Whenever one of them felt lonely, they'd reconnect. It was a cycle neither of them fully escaped. According to Emily, she'd spent years trying to move on. Then she met me, and for the first time, she genuinely believed she had. But Noah kept finding reasons to stay involved in her life. Financial problems, family issues, business ideas, emergencies. There was always something. And because of their history, Emily always felt responsible. I was angry hearing all of this, but something about her tone felt different. Not defensive, ashamed. Then she said the words that changed everything. "The night you caught us wasn't planned." I laughed bitterly. "Really? I'm serious. Emily, I literally saw you kissing him." "I know." There was pain in her voice.
Real pain.
Then she explained. That evening, she'd gone to meet Noah because he claimed he needed help with a serious legal issue involving the house. When she arrived, he was drunk. Very drunk. He started talking about the past. About mistakes, about regrets, about losing her. Then, according to Emily, he kissed her unexpectedly. For a second, she froze. And that second was exactly when I walked through the door. Honestly, I didn't know whether to believe her. Part of me thought she was telling the truth. Part of me thought she was rewriting history. Then, she said something that made me stop doubting. "Ryan, check your email."
What? Just check it.
A few moments later, I opened my inbox. There was a new message, one attachment, a video file. I clicked it. The footage came from a security camera inside the building. My stomach dropped, because the video showed exactly what Emily had described. Noah was talking. Emily looked uncomfortable. Then Noah suddenly grabbed her and kissed her. She pushed him away almost immediately. Seconds later, I appeared at the door. I sat frozen. The room felt completely silent. Everything I thought I knew about that night suddenly shifted. Emily had still lied. She had still hidden things from me. But she hadn't been having a secret romantic weekend like I'd imagined, and somehow that made everything even more complicated. Before I could process it, Emily spoke again. "Ryson, that's not the worst part." I stared at the screen. "What now?" Her next words sent a chill through me.
Noah sent that envelope. What?
The photos, the records, everything. I felt my stomach twist.
What are you talking about?
"He wanted you to leave me." The realization hit me slowly, painfully. Then Emily told me something I never would have guessed. Several weeks earlier, Noah had learned that Emily and I were seriously discussing marriage. According to her, he didn't take it well. At first, he'd acted supportive. Then he'd started calling more often, showing up unexpectedly, bringing up old memories, trying to create emotional distance between us. Emily claimed she'd finally started setting boundaries, and Noah hated it. That's when things escalated. The meeting, the kiss, the anonymous envelope, everything. It was all part of an attempt to destroy whatever relationship remained between us. I wanted to dismiss her explanation, but the more I thought about Sarah's story, the more pieces started fitting together. Noah had done something similar before. He'd sabotaged another engagement. Maybe this wasn't about love. Maybe it was about control. A few days later, I finally agreed to meet Emily in person. Not because I forgave her, not because I trusted her, but because I needed closure. We met at a quiet coffee shop. The moment I saw her, she looked completely different, exhausted, broken, like someone who hadn't slept in days. For a while, we just sat there. Then she looked at me and said something I still remember. "I hurt you." I nodded. "You did." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Good." She lowered her head. "I just wanted you to know that, despite everything, my feelings for you were real." That was the hardest part, because I believed her. And sometimes the truth hurts more than a lie. The truth was that Emily loved me, but she had never fully dealt with her past. And when you leave old doors unlocked, eventually they open again. Over the next hour, we talked honestly for the first time in years. No excuses, no manipulation, no pretending, just truth. By the end of the conversation, I realized something important. Even if everything she said was true, the trust was gone. And without trust, there was no future. A relationship can't survive on love alone. Eventually, I stood up. Emily looked at me.
Is this goodbye?
I took a deep breath, then nodded. Neither of us cried. Neither of us argued. Because deep down, we both knew the relationship had ended long before that day. We simply hadn't admitted it yet. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Noah had moved to another state. Emily cut all contact with him. As for me, I spent that time rebuilding my life, going to therapy, reconnecting with friends, learning how to trust my own judgment again. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Today, when I look back, I don't think the biggest betrayal was the cheating. The biggest betrayal was the lack of honesty. If Emily had been truthful about her past from the beginning, we could have faced it together. Instead, secrets grew in the dark until they destroyed everything. The experience taught me a lesson I'll never forget. Trust isn't broken in a single moment. It's broken one hidden truth at a time. And no matter how much love exists between two people, a relationship built on incomplete honesty will eventually collapse under the weight of what's been left unsaid. Sometimes losing someone isn't the tragedy. Sometimes the real tragedy is losing yourself while trying to hold on to someone who is never completely there. And that's a mistake I'll never make again. If this story kept you hooked until the end, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another powerful story. And remember, sometimes the truth isn't what we expect, it's what we choose to believe before we have all the facts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next story.